So a lot of people talked about the public comments. I just want to say that I'm in favor and support of unlimited time for public comments. If you can convince the council about that, I'm supporting. I have no issue with it, okay? Anyone can, bring it back and we can reconsider that. Now we move to the consent agenda, and this is approved in a single motion with no discussion. We have approval of minutes from the September 12, 2023 regular city council meeting. B, approval of invoice register date ending September 12, 2023. C, approval of pre-approved expenditure date ending September 12, 2023.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Now we move to the public hearing. We have Resolution 2023-123B approving second reading and public hearing of the minority and ethnic intimidation ordinance.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
That's to open the public
Go
hearing.
to 751.
Yes.
Ellen Blasey.
Hello again, Mayor and Council. I'm going to take a second to read the ordinance out loud, just so everybody knows what we're talking about, since there's unlimited time in public hearings. 1, a person is guilty of minority or ethnic intimidation if that person maliciously and with specific intent to intimidate or harass another person because of that person's race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or natural origin does any of the following. A, causes physical contact with another person. B, damages, destroys, or defaces any real or personal property of another person. C, threatens, by word or act, to do an act described in subdivision A or B, if there is a reasonable cause to believe that an act described in subdivision A or B will occur. 2, minority or ethnic intimidation is a misdemeanor punished by imprisonment for not more than 93 days in jail or by a fine of not more than $500 or both. 3, the offense shall be considered a separate offense from other crimes against persons or property under the laws of the City of Hamtramck and may be charged as an additional offense to such offense. My concerns and questions around this ordinance stem from the separation of this offense from other crimes. Currently, those who are destroying people's personal property are being charged with malicious destruction of property, and I'm curious if this would be a double charge. And because most of the perpetrators are children, I'm curious whether their families would be charged with malicious destruction of property in addition to violation of this new ordinance as well. I'm also concerned about addressing the root of these issues. I think it would be better spent if we focus on building bridges and creating activities across our city that bring people together, increase understanding, and as public officials, as elected officials, you are role models to the community and should be modeling these behaviors of how to reach out, extend a hand, build relationships with people who are different than yourselves, and learning from our differences, embracing our differences so we can all be better together. I don't think this resolution, this new ordinance would do that. I think, and that's it, thank you.
Thank you, Len. Ramesh, would you?
So I think we just discovered an issue. The wrong resolution was attached.
The resolution is fine, it's the wrong version.
The wrong version of the ordinance, I guess, was attached.
Somehow
So-
the original version got attached. The amended one from last meeting should be on here.
You probably need to read it, so
Yeah.
people know the difference.
Yeah, you got it.
So the difference here is,
Can you turn on your mic, please, just in case it's on? Thanks.
the difference here is Part B, damages, destroys, or defaces any real or personal property of another person. And subsection I, this can include the placing of any objects upon the vehicle of another of any kind when done as a means of intimidation or with intent to harass. I believe that's the only change.
Okay, Ramesh?
Good evening again. As I mentioned before, my name is Ramos Wadood. I'm an attorney with the ACLU of Michigan. And I wanted to spend some time talking about this ordinance and the issues that the ACLU of Michigan has with the City of Hamtramck and considering the ordinance and potentially passing it. I'll start off by saying that I understand the importance of addressing hate and discrimination in Hamtramck, anywhere. The ACLU is all for that, but this ordinance is just not the way to do that for a few reasons. And I'll start with the first one, is that, in our opinion, the ordinance is wholly unnecessary. There's already a state ethnic intimidation law that is identical, word for the most part, to this proposed ordinance. The ordinance doesn't accomplish anything additional beyond what the state law does. On top of that, if the concern, which has been raised multiple times, if the concern is vandalism or defacement or destruction of private property, there are also already laws on the books addressing malicious property destruction. And so, on top of that, this ordinance would be even less effective in addressing property destruction and property defacement as those laws, because it carries obviously the additional requirement of showing that the damage was discriminatory in some way. And so we have a state ethnic intimidation law on the books. We have malicious destruction of property laws on the books. And so this ordinance really isn't doing much at all. All the ordinance is accomplishing is expanding the power of the City of Hamtramck to criminalize its residents and its visitors for conduct that's already criminalized at the state level. And so whenever there's a superfluous or redundant law like this, especially one that carries jail time, that's something that the ACLU takes issue with. On top of that, this ordinance poses pretty serious constitutional concerns, and it opens up the city to pretty significant legal exposure. This ordinance, and I can quote it, criminalizes any threats by word or act to do an act described in the previous subsections. As you're all well aware, the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protects a lot of speech that some of you could deem a threat, while others, including a lot of courts, would deem advocacy. We've seen this type of restriction in other jurisdictions around the country being used to go after protesters, to go after activists who simply criticize the government and call for protest. The government often says those calls for action are criminal threats, and they try to go after those protesters, those activists, using ordinances like this. But time and time again, courts have found that the protesters' speech is protected. And so obviously this all depends on how this ordinance will be enforced. And so the ACLU will be watching very closely if it comes to a point where the City Council approves this ordinance and starts to enforce it. Finally, we have some serious concerns about how this ordinance came up in the first place. I'll be honest, coming into this room, I was pretty heartened, delighted to see that the City Council had made some changes to the ordinance from last week's version, removed subsection BI, which specifically referred to placing objects on vehicles, but it turns out that was a mistake. And so the concerns I have about that subsection are renewed, and it's, we can be honest here, it's clearly connected to recent controversies regarding the city's flag ban and the resulting response from the community. This version of the ordinance with subsection BI targets the placement of objects on vehicles. From what I've heard, from what I've read, that's a direct response to stickers or other objects being placed on elected officials' cars. Speaking specifically about this ordinance and generally speaking, turning a personal vendetta into a law that carries jail time is extremely inappropriate, especially wielding the language of ethnic intimidation or hate crimes or minority discrimination to accomplish that goal. It won't be a successful goal even if this ordinance is passed, but I sincerely, sincerely hope that this ordinance isn't passed. And I'll close with a bit of a more personal point. As you can see, I have brown skin. I'm a practicing Muslim. I can think of so many times where an ordinance like this would have been helpful to me, right? Where this ordinance could have been enforced against someone who did any of the things that were mentioned in this ordinance. But that's not the type of help I'm seeking. I'm not seeking to confront an attacker and send them to jail for something they said or did to me. I'm seeking to reconcile with that person. And I think that what this ordinance does is that it further divides a city that has been opening up divisions so frequently recently, and it doesn't address the root issue of why we have those divisions and why we're afraid to address them directly and in the spirit of community. And so by sending people off to jail or by fining them, penalizing them for whatever conduct that the city council thinks this ordinance covers, that is simply the wrong way to go when it comes to coming together as a community, and it only further serves to divide the city.
Before you go, so we were accused of just watching the vandalism that was happening to the LGBTQ and doing nothing, as some people said. So we had to come up with something to protect the LGBTQ from any kind of vandalism. I have heard the stories that the police goes to some kids' houses. Some people received a ticket for $1,000. I don't know based on what law was that. We found no route even in the state to give a $1,000 ticket to a kid who vandalized a flag or removed it from somewhere. So we had to balance. I mean, it's not only based on personal experience, but we personally experienced that. But we heard it from a lot of people that some also stickers were placed on some people's property. So are you okay with that being done to some citizens? Because we're trying to prevent it and not give a cause for those kids to go and vandalize some people's houses by overreacting to what's happening from the other side. We just want to stop it from both sides. That's the goal of this resolution. But you are saying that it's okay to keep it, protect the LGBT from doing any kind of vandalism, but leave it open for them to do any kind of vandalism to other people on their cars and properties. How is that?
If I might answer, I appreciate the question, Mayor. I'm not talking about any specific type of intimidation. This ordinance covers ethnic intimidation, national origin, race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, whatever it may be. I'm saying that this ordinance is not the right approach to things. It carries up to 93 days in jail. Obviously, that's a decision for prosecutors and courts, and the decision to enforce this law in the first place is up to police officers and the police department. But like I said, going back to my first point, there is already a state law on the books that says pretty much the exact same thing. There's already laws on the books that address vandalism and destruction of property. If the issue is that we don't have tools to address this, that's simply not the case. There are state law tools, there are other local ordinances that address these issues. What we're doing here is adding another tool that's entirely superfluous, that carries jail time, to address issues that have come up because of degrading community relations. And so I think the focus here should be repairing community relations instead of criminalizing and penalizing any departure from being one of those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Claude Silvera.
Hello. Good evening. Thank you for hearing my comment. I want to apologize for speaking in a kind of plain manner, but I'm just sort of an ordinary person, to say that I do not trust this resolution. I know that the language has changed, But aspects of the original language, and I am talking about the flag portion, lead me to have the impression that the law is coming about because of an interpersonal dispute that should be handled by adults acting like adults, not through the mechanism of city government. But that's my impression. Since I also want to thank you then for what you said, because it does clear up maybe some more things that are going on. To that, I guess I want to say, why should anybody be facing an extra penalty for something that's already illegal if they harass someone else? Nobody should be harassing anybody. But passing this law probably won't be noticed by kids who did some vandalism or by adults who did some protest or vandalism or actions. That it won't be noticed and it won't make those people change their behavior. I agree with somebody else who was commenting saying that you could try to build a bridge so that people realize that they're harassing each other and making each other feel bad and that they should just stop doing that. Instead, we're kind of just creating a sort of an escalation, it seems to me. And so if this passes, that's how it will seem to me, that the city government is engaged in kind of escalation around this tension. And that's not going to make me feel better for the kids that live on my street, and it's not going to make me feel better for the queer people, including myself, who live here, or anybody who's living here. I don't think that it's going to make people's lives better. Thank you again for hearing my comment. And as a final note, also please don't buy those cameras. I think it's a waste of money.
Thank you. Gracie Faye?
Hi again, gentlemen. How are you guys doing tonight? Good. So, we all know why this ordinance exists. Because of our response to your flag ban and our response to you gutting public comment. You guys brought about every sticker, every poster, every action that has occurred from the queer community directed at this council has been by your own design. You guys elected that. You chose to do that on June 13th when I stood up here and I told you, if you chose to brand your hate as civic government, we would respond, we would resist, we would protest you. On that hill across from this building, I stood out there 2 weeks later and I called for the same action I'm going to call for now. If you pass this resolution, I am calling on the queers of Hamtramck to once again paper the fuck out of this city with stickers, with protests, and with outright dissent to what you're doing. If you want to have an honest conversation between our community, now is the opportunity. Now is the time for us to talk and figure out how we go ahead and coexist with each other, rather than nitpicking and sniping each other with political actions and direct actions from the queers. So if you truly, truly want to govern, I'm right here. I'm one of the leaders of the queers. Talk to me. I'm standing in front of you and I'm asking you to talk to me before you pass another law that is only going to harm your community. Because again, I'm gonna say it. White people aren't your friends, gentlemen. They're not here to support you. They don't like what you've built here. If you pass this law and they ever get a slim bit of power in this city, do you think they won't weaponize it against you? For a second, think about that. You create another law, they will weaponize it immediately. So let's chat, let's talk. Anybody? Crickets? That's fine. Again, I'm calling for the queers of Hamtramck to resist, obstruct, deny, and otherwise frustrate all of you until we come to an understanding that we can exist together, but you have to stop being dicks. Have a good evening.
Well, thank you for all that threatening language. You haven't heard from the other side. We are preventing any counter protest.
Am I allowed to respond to you?
If you think that small fraction from Hamtramck can make it look like it's all queer, that's not gonna happen. I met with a couple of people to try to understand each other, and the first condition they put is put the flag in front of the city hall and just campus. So how do you expect to reach a solution when you come with a condition like that? So it's not gonna happen. You have to come to a compromise. You can't come and put a condition, do this or we're not gonna get along. That's not gonna happen. I mean, when the flag resolution passed in 2021 and was raised here in front of the city hall, nobody did anything. Although it was against the majority of the people, the will of the majority. They were just silent. They didn't cause any problem. They didn't divide the community. They didn't, put all these tricks. Even in the festival, you change the traditional order of the group that march, and you put the queer flag behind the city officials, while it's supposed to be city officials, county, state officials. You came with an order that's out of the ordinary. You are the one who's causing all this tension, not us. I mean, we just passed a resolution, we listened to you, we're willing to talk. I met with a couple of people, we will meet again, but you can't come and threaten us like that. Remember, the other community is silent now, and they can protest too, and it's gonna be less safer. We are holding all that to de-escalate the problem, to remove the tension in the community. But you can't just come and just threaten us like that, like, there's nobody in Hamtramck to resist you. You can resist as much as you want. We listen peacefully, but others can do the same. And we're not going to reach a compromise. But again, we are willing to compromise. We are willing to talk. I have a meeting coming soon with some of your representatives, and we will talk nicely, not in this kind of language to threaten each other. Keep going.
And then also just a heads up, please watch your language. Josh Hansen.
Hello, I'm one of the many leaders of many queer organizations in this city. We don't work together, but we work alongside one another. We have our own organizations and our own institutions. One of the things that none of our organizations or institutions do is organize the Labor Day Festival or the parade. I had no idea I was going to be marching against you, or next to you, until I read about it in the news that you moved away from us. Now, I actually want to talk about this flag ban resolution because this is incredibly concerning on how you are governing our city. Specifically, the fact that you are having a second reading and trying to go through the process of passing a public ordinance that has consequences, fines, jail time. However, you're not doing the due diligence of making this available to the public. The fact that you're attaching wrong documentation to the things that you send out for the people to know what you're trying to do, and then to come here and be prepared to talk about it, and then it changes during this meeting. So anybody who didn't hear that, oh, you actually are putting in the ordinance with the stickers on the vehicle's part instead of the one that was posted without it, they might not have even shown up because they wouldn't have had that issue. Because like somebody said before, people show up when they have an issue. So first of all, I am disappointed in the way that you are not providing information to the public in a reasonable, accountable amount of time. And this has been brought up by many people over several weeks, over several months, about getting these minutes before the meeting. And that's not a way to run our government. And on top of that, continuing to introduce resolutions at the beginning of the meeting, yes, is your prerogative, but it is also another way for you to skirt around public accountability for your choices and your actions. So when you put on a resolution or an ordinance without giving people the time to prepare, it is undemocratic and it is against the institutions of this nation. You need to do better about that part. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Mayering.
Can I see what the sign is, please? Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with the public hearing, so I can't have you do that. Thank you, though. Is there anything you want to speak in regard to the public hearing?
What can I speak about?
About the ordinance for the ethnic intimidation ordinance?
No.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, that's all for public comment.
So, can I get a
Yes.
motion to close? Yeah.
Yes.
Second.
I'm sorry, who motioned? I apologize.
Councilman Frye?
And it's 8:16,
Yes.
and now we need a motion to discuss, please.
I motion. I'll second.
Thank you.
Did he discuss?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so previous couple of speaker already speak about the Michigan state law. We already have the law. So we already have the law and we little bit tune up the make another law which is feeding to this diverse community. I don't know what their problem. So, and some of the speaker came here talking about the more jail time, more punishment. If you don't do all those stuff, you don't have to worry about it. More jail time, more punishing time. Maybe you're doing that. This law gonna stop you to doing that, a part of that. And some of the speakers don't know even, came to the talk about the public hearing, about the resolution, ordinance, and in the silent mode. So somebody first, you guys have to understand what and why you coming for. And the speaker, some of the speaker was very rude. We don't have organization to teach you guys how to speak politely, gently, and common sense. So welcome to our organization. Then I can teach you and train you how to speak in the environment, like a gentleman environment, and we can train you guys how to speak. And this law is perfectly fit for Hamtramck, and I'm supporting this law.
Anyone else?
No, sir.
No more discussion?
So again, I have seen a lot of ordinances, papers sent to people's houses where it says, first offense $100, second offense this or 90 days jail time. This is not the first one to refer to jail time. There's so many of them, including some small violations. If you don't do this, clean that, remove that, first offense this, second offense include jail time. I've seen so many by our city from previous lawmakers in the past, so this is not the first one. And like Mayor Protem said, I'm not worried even if it's 10 years jail time, because I have no intention to vandalize anybody's properties. So why should I worry if I have no intention to do it? Only people who have intentions to keep doing it are the ones who are worried about that. So it might be just to symbolize, make people think before they do anything. Make those kids who do the vandalism stop, think about it by their parents, and instead of getting punishments for that. I don't know where it's coming from. The state doesn't say $1,000 ticket, or go scare the hell out of them to their houses, 12, 13 years old kids. I'm not saying that in support of what they do. I said it many times. I denounce any kind of vandalism, and this is one way to just express our rejection to this kind of vandalism, whether it's to you or to others. It's just a two-way street to stop it from both sides, to not give a cause for somebody else to react to what you do. So I don't know why some people are worried if you have no intention to keep doing it. I'm not worried because I have no intention to do it. Put 10 years in jail, I don't care, because I'm not going to do it. So I don't know if anybody else has something to say.
Mr. Chair, if nobody speak, I miss a couple of things about this.
Yes, very good.
Okay, so personal property. So my sign under the organization name is my organization personal property. Is the example. Somebody writes something in my forehead, and I'm not sure. Somebody put the sticker in my mouth, in my poster, So those kinds of things is not the gentleman attitude. And also, who did this not practicing the law. So this is the example, another one, to make you practice the good law. Thanks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I like to support our first constitutional right, freedom of speech.
I'm sorry, Councilman, is your
Yeah.
speaker on?
Yeah.
Is your mic on?
Yeah.
Is the light lit on your mic?
It is.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But if I do not agree with you, then you tell me I'm supporting not your opinion. If my opinion is not, you don't like it, so you're going to bring a poster, say, I do not listen to you. This is really unfortunate. And when you have the public comment, you have to come into here, and previous, my opponent explained this, you have to come here talk, not for the, show me the reading, Hamtramck doesn't want to listen to you. I want to listen to you until you have to be listen to us. And politics is a compromise. So Mayor, our Honorable Mayor already talked to the audience, the people who bring this issue. Yes, we are ready to talk to you, but not you if your demand. If I fill up your demand, so you don't need to talk to me, or you don't need to talk to the authorities. And I'm again telling you guys, our mayor already talked to lot of people. We are diversity community. A lot of people don't like those options also. If they're gonna bring this another rally against of you, it will be a big chaos. So we want to listen to you, but bring a compromise mind. And politics is a compromise. We like to discuss with you and get a good resolution from there. Thank you to listening me.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, you will be next. So, important point he said. I mean, if we disagree, doesn't mean that we hate you. If I disagree with you, you can't call me bigot or a terrorist. You know, you all seen those posters on the street and trash cans with my picture, terrorist under. Who did that? I mean, I don't need an answer. I know who did it and who shared it and who supports that. And you come to warn me about the Republicans, and you are acting worse than. It shows, like, I'm not saying you, but whoever did this are basically Islamophobes, because you are not just accusing me, you are labeling every Muslim as a terrorist, and we know how that comes from, and where did it come from. So I'm just giving you an example. So who's escalating the problem in the city? I disagree with you, but it doesn't mean that I'm, yeah, definitely, yeah. That's why I call you terrorist, right? Who calls the other names? Who did it? Some of the most important public figures in the community, they call them community pillars in our, throwing all these words and accusations, which is disrespectful, and I don't know what else can I say, but it shows what kind of hate we have in our community. And just I'm saying, if we disagree, it doesn't mean that we hate each other. But some people go just too extreme. Anyways, Councilman Chaudhry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first of all, I would like to thank every one of you being here tonight and putting your comments. It's very I respect that your comments it really matters. But as you heard from the mayor and the council, that we try to work with you guys. We try to have a conversation, but every time we try to have a conversation, we find that you have one thing that you wanted to have your way first. You don't want to work out with the best majority in the city. And I would have voted for, if I was a council member in another city and then you were the best majority, I would have voted for you or supported you. The thing is, in this community, that the people of the community, the vast majority paying the taxes are deserve their respect. And that doesn't mean that I don't like you or I don't want you to be around here. I have friends in the LGBTQ. I have business partners. I have that. But how you guys are reacting is overwhelming and very disrespecting. If you have come to with the compromisation and respectfully, we would work out. We will have a common ground. I won't say anything further, but I do think that this is necessary. Our mayor has taken the steps. I appreciate that, and I want peace in the community for all people. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I guess we are done with discussion. Can you go ahead and vote?
Councilman Musa,
Yes.
Councilman Chowdhury,
Yes.
Councilman Hassan,
Yes.
Councilman Al-Sarraj,
Yes.
Councilman Rafai,
Yes.
Councilman Mahmoud,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, Resolution 2023-123B approved.
Thank you. I hope not to see anybody go to jail. It's a resolution. So, anyways,